News Center 7's Don Franklin keeping a close eye on Hurricane Elena tonight. He's back at the Weather Center right now with the latest. Don?
Mark, it looks at this point, as of 6 o'clock, things have changed around quite a bit. They've dropped the hurricane warnings everywhere westward of Pensacola. They've extended the hurricane warnings eastward to Tarpon Springs in Florida, and gale warnings down to Venice. Let's take a quick look at the computer. We can show you what the storm has been doing for the past 24 hours, and as it gets up in there closer and closer to the Panhandle area of Florida, and the eye is now about 30 nautical miles in diameter, and at 6 o'clock, the position of the storm is 28.5 north, 86.5 west. It's now drifting toward the northeast at about 5 knots. Highest winds are still about 100 miles per hour. The sustained winds in the storm itself, 85. So consequently, things as of 6 o'clock extended more into the state of Florida. We have some coastal warnings and so forth up, and we'll get along to those a little bit later on in the news, but it looks like the folks up there are definitely going to get wet. Peter?
Thank you, Don. News Center 7 meteorologist Don Franklin. As you can imagine, this has been an anxious day along the Gulf Coast in Florida's Panhandle. That's where News Center 7's Brian Cabell has been throughout the day. He joins us now live from Pensacola via the News Star 7 satellite. Brian.
Peter, we have literally been chasing a hurricane for the last 2 days. As you know, we started in Mississippi yesterday. We were in Alabama this morning. We are now, as you said, in Pensacola, and in about an hour we will be packing up once again and going to Panama City. The thing is moving east, but even though it is moving east, Pensacola has been having really serious problems with its surf on the coast this afternoon. The waves on Pensacola Beach this afternoon were at 10 to 12 feet and getting larger. This fishing pier is in immediate jeopardy and buckled even as we were watching it. Police and National Guardsmen set up roadblocks on the highways leading to the beach.
Well, what I want to do, I want 30 minutes to get to my house, get some valuable stuff out of my house. It's closed except for press, and there is no more port entrance right now. I mean, it's under about this much water.
Only the media and law enforcement officials were being allowed through. This is the first time the National Guard has been called out for a hurricane since Frederick in 1979. The normally popular beach area, as a result, resembles a ghost town. Condos along the coast have been evacuated by order of the governor, and businesses are shut down. Merchants hoping to salvage whatever they can before Elena hits. All of this so far is entertaining for some, but does it scare the kids?
A little. Now all the water on the picnic
This girl's been
table.
through 2 hurricanes, right?
Really?
Adam's first.
This is his first.
His first hurricane, huh? What do you think? Is it scary?
So Elena is now about 125 to 150 miles south of here, moving east. We are told likely spot of landfall, Panama City by dawn. That is the best guess at this point, and right now you can give it nothing else other than a guess because we really don't know. We will be heading that way, and we'll have the latest report tonight at 11. Mark and Peter?
Brian, short question for you. The one thing I have discerned from all of your reporting over the last couple of days is that they are evacuating a whole lot of people, and all of the evacuation seems to be going very smoothly.
Yeah, they have evacuated very well, apparently because they have good practice at this. They do this almost every year. These towns here along the coast are virtual ghost towns, as we said in our report. All the shops are boarded up. The people really are staying away from the beaches for the most part, and as we showed you, National Guardsmen are putting up roadblocks to keep them off of the beaches. So everything is going very smoothly. As it turns out, these people are going to be very relieved because the Elena is moving east right now.
Well, this is the calm before the storm. We wish you the very best of luck as you head into Elena hitting the continental United States.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Brian. Travel safely. News Center 7's Brian Cabell reporting live by News Star 7 satellite.
More now on Hurricane Elena with News Center 7's Don Franklin. She seems to be changing course.
She can do anything she wants.
Yeah.
As big as it is.
Okay.
Now, seriously, late this afternoon, well, all through the afternoon, the steering currents have become quite weak, and consequently, it's become very erratic in its movement. In fact, let's call on Dr. Neil Frank at the National Hurricane Center. Thanks for joining us, Dr. Frank. We appreciate it.
Good evening, Don.
Good evening. Now that Elena has become extremely erratic, and hardly anything in the way of steering currents, and I'm not going to put you on the spot and say where is it going to go, but it has seemed to be drifting more toward the east this afternoon. Is that how you find it?
Yeah, no question about that. The Air Force plane that's been monitoring the system this afternoon shows that it's moving towards the northeast right now. Now, even though steering currents are weak, this northeast motion has forced us to shift the warnings over to the Florida west coast, so we now have hurricane warnings from Tarpon Springs all the way around to Pensacola.
Well, let's go back for a few years here. I think it was, wasn't it Betsy back in '65, as I recall? It went up off Palm Beach and sat there for a little while, did a circle, and then came back around?
Yes, absolutely. But even in the area where this storm is, in 1950, we had a storm that stayed along that coastline something like 3 days before it finally made up its mind what it was going to do. And I trust that we're not going to get into one of those kind of dilemmas with this storm.
Well, as I understand it right now, it's about 150 miles southwest of Apalachicola, and the gales extend outward 150 miles. So consequently, I imagine they're feeling some gales right now, aren't they, along the coast?
Yes, Don. We've had squalls in the Big Bend area, you know, where the Florida coastline curves up there.
Right.
We've had squalls moving into that area all afternoon.
Now, if the storm doesn't move around much, and there doesn't seem to be anything pushing it or drawing it along, but it does have the possibility of sitting there for a while, will it intensify anymore?
Well, it could, but we are pleased to say this afternoon that the Air Force plane didn't find that the winds had increased any, so we got a 100-mile-an-hour storm. That's a very respectable hurricane, and in that particular part of the coastline, it's capable of pushing a storm surge of 8 to 12 feet onto the coastline, indeed, if it gets up closer to that coast tomorrow.
I understand the tide times for high tide up in that area around 3 to 4 o'clock in the morning, so that what you're talking about is a normal high tide plus 12 feet plus waves?
That's what we're talking about. That's what makes the hurricane so awesome. It's a storm surge that's the real problem.
Well, let's wish those folks the very best, and we wish you a great deal of thanks for joining us. Thank you much. All right.